Hello, and welcome to Zap the Gender Pay Gap, the podcast series where we expose the elephant in the room. The elephant's name, the gender pay gap. I am coming to you from Memphis, Tennessee, located on the banks of the mighty Mississippi River. Nestled in the southwest corner of the state, Memphis is home to the blues, barbecue, and so much more. I am your host, Gwendolyn Tucker.
Thank you so very much for joining me for this episode of Zap the Gender Pay Gap. I am your host, Gwendolyn Tucker. Look for me on Apple, Spotify, Google, and YouTube. Please like and subscribe. Thank you so very much for submitting questions you'd like me to answer related to finding and fixing the gender pay gap. I am very happy to respond to your questions because it helps me fulfill the reason why I launched this podcast in the first place. Those reasons are threefold. One, to expose this elephant in the room that I have named the gender pay gap, to make it so visible that you can't miss it. Number two is to disclose some pertinent facts about this elephant, which may have been kept secret or previously unknown to you. And then number three, to dispose of the effects of this elephant in the room by putting it on a diet, cutting off the flow of your pay that's going down this elephant's snout so you can get it into your bank account. So for me, responding to your question is a real pleasure. Let's take a look at the questions which were submitted last week. Question number one was, what if I ask for a raise and don't get it? Question number two was, if my boss says no, does that mean I need to look for another job? As you can see, the two questions are closely related, and they arose because for the past several episodes, I have shared information reported in the Memphis Business Journal that companies are still budgeting strong raises for 2024, and that although the battle for talent isn't as tense as it was a year ago, experts say that many workers are planning to ask for raises. So, what about you? If you are planning to ask for a raise, there are some things you need to know as 2024 approaches. One thing is knowing which mistakes to avoid when asking for a raise. If you haven't already, I urge you to listen to last week's episode to find out the 8 mistakes women make when asking for a raise. I will put a link in the show notes for easy reference. First, let me share my response to the questions, then I'd like to make a few observations. Question number one, what if my boss says no? What should I do next? Of course, I would be very disappointed to be told no when asking for a raise. I really don't like hearing no, especially if it's something I really want and believe I have earned. Instead of stopping at no, though, I would ask my boss to tell me more. In essence, to tell me why she or he is denying my request. There could be a number of reasons, and I'd really like to know which ones apply in my case. It could be that is it because my contributions do not meet expectations? Is it not the right time? Is it because there is no money in the budget for me to get a raise? Is it because my boss is not willing to advocate for me getting a raise? Regardless of why my said no, knowing why will help me strategize my next move. Now, I admit it can be very stressful asking for a raise, let alone navigating the space and maintaining your cool after being told no. It may be difficult to control your emotions and not let your emotions get the best of you, either anger, fear, or disappointment, or a combination of all three. But now is not the time to lose it. You must not let your emotions overwhelm your intelligence. You have to maintain your composure. You're on a mission here to get that raise so more money will go into your bank account. Now to question two. Question two was, since my boss said no when I asked for a raise, does that mean I need to start looking for another job? Again, not necessarily. It can be very tempting to think that moving on is the best remedy, but again, not necessarily. You want to make sure you get a plan in place that leads you to what you want and most deserve. When I get in situations like these, I ask myself, what now and what next? And you have to ask yourself, what do I do now? What do I do next? The answer to those questions will depend upon why your boss said no. If your boss said that your contribution does not warrant a raise, then perhaps you have not provided enough evidence to be found guilty. But before going back to the drawing board, I'd ask for specifics. If the reason for denying the raise is that the time is not right, I'd ask for more details so I can find a more opportune time to present my case and ask for his or her support. Now that I have shared my responses to the questions, here are a few observations. The very nature of these questions implies that the person asking believes the answer will be no even before they ask. Is that a possibility? Yes, but please remember the answer is always no until you ask. So instead of focusing your energy on getting a no, ask yourself what would happen if you focus more energy on preparing yourself to get to yes? Both questions reveal a fear that their request will be denied, and they're wondering what to do next. In a nutshell, the question I hear the person asking is this: will the juice be worth the squeeze? Now, this saying is a question people ask when they wonder if all the hard work is worth the reward at the end. That's according to writingexplained.org. Said another way, is the end result worth the process to achieve it? But you won't know until you ask because, did I hear you say? Because the answer is always no unless you ask. You definitely have to weigh the pros and cons of pursuing a particular course of action. In this case, asking for a raise. But instead of asking if it's worth it, ask yourself if you're worth it. Because if you don't think you're worth it, guess what? You'll talk yourself out of asking. You will decide that asking is too risky and that it is better to settle for less than to ask and be told no. I've said this before and I will say it again. Going after your fortune, in this case, a raise in pay, takes three things: faith, fortitude, and facts. Faith that not only is it worth it, but that you're worth it. Fortitude. I really like how Merriam Webster defines it. Fortitude is the strength of mind that enables a person to encounter danger or bear pain or adversity with courage. It's the ability to be able to stand up under pressure and to move forward in the face of uncertainty. And then, thirdly, facts. Facts that prove you have credible evidence that you've earned that raise. Add to faith, fortitude, and to fortitude facts. And with these three, this raise is yours for the taking. In my experience, you don't have to ask for more work, and you may think that even hope that you won't have to ask for a raise. But remember what I said before, the answer is always no until you ask. Before asking for a raise, you will have to decide for yourself if the juice is worth the squeeze. But how will you know? How can you tell if asking will be worth it? First, you must find out if you're earning what you should be earning. If you're earning less than what you should be earning, less than what your contributions are worth, then I think it is time you develop your plan and ask for a raise, my friend. I always like to get as much information as I can to help guide women in determining the next best step for them. And knowing which mistakes to avoid is a good first step. Now, when asking for a raise, please, please, please take this to heart. You want to put your best foot forward. It's one way to increase your chances of ensuring that the juice will be worth the squeeze. Now, next week, I will share more about how to put your best foot forward when asking for a raise. But before I go, I want to leave you with this. First, thank you for submitting questions for me to respond to. Please send in more. I'd be happy to respond to your questions. Secondly, as you can see, there is no one size fits all. In some cases, the answer is it depends. And thirdly, please share this episode with another woman in the workplace who could benefit from what I share. Ultimately, my goal is to show women, including you, how to get a pay raise that's currently in your company's budget into your bank account. Now, I still have a few one-on-one coaching slots where I show women in the workplace how to raise their pay in the next 90 days so they don't keep getting left behind. Please message me back if you're interested in hearing more. Go to gwendolynjtucker.com and click on contact. I will also put a link in the show notes to this episode. So just check out the description box on how you could reach me. Now, women, you work hard for your money. I want to show you how you can take home all of it. I thank you so very much for joining me today. Please plan to join me next time and don't forget to leave your question in the comment box. I will make it my business to respond on the next episode. That way, others can benefit from hearing your question and my best answer. I look forward to seeing you here next Wednesday at noon Central Standard Time for the next episode of Zap the Gender Pay Gap. Until then, please be well.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of Zap the Gender Pay Gap. Please rate, review, and subscribe to or follow me wherever you get your favorite podcast. I am your host, Gwendolyn Tucker. Thanks so much for listening. See you next time.